and welcome everyone to another episode of Indie Spotlight. Today we have an awesome musician with us. His name is Christopher Messick, and he goes by Laguna Munta. And we're really excited to talk to him about his rock music today and his inspirations and kind of where he all got started. So, you introduce myself. I'm Michael from Wicked Publishing, and we also have our fellow co-founder with us today.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
His name is Matt, and anyway, without further ado, as I always say, welcome to our guest today. How's it going, man?
Oh, it's going well, gentlemen. Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. I'm really excited to talk to you today. We usually talk to comic book creators, and so this is going to be really interesting to kind of branch out and talk to someone who does something a little bit different, which, everybody loves music. So, I mean, that's always good to talk to about. So, why don't you tell us a little about who you are, what you do, and how you all got started in music?
Well, as you said, I go by Laguna Munta, and that's my kind of my solo act stage name. And music has been a lifelong thing for me. My dad was an original songwriter and original music artist, so I kind of grew up with that influence in the house my whole life. So I would basically, people always say, when I was a kid, my dad was always listening to the Beatles. So I grew up listening to the Beatles, but for me, it was growing up listening to my dad writing and recording his own music.
That's cool. That's really cool, actually.
And that really influenced me to do the same because, I mean, if you grow up with a cool dad, as I was lucky enough to do, you kind of want to emulate that, and you want to, you want to be cool like your cool dad. So there's pictures of me when I was a little kid strumming on a guitar, like 4 or 5 years old. And so it was kind of from childhood. And then as I got older, my dad always had kind of a band. And when I was about 10 years old, I started getting into drumming. And my grandparents got me this little electric drum pad. And we'd hook that up to the PA, and kind of get like a big drum sound out of it. And I would try to drum for my dad, but I really wasn't that good at it. So after, I don't know, maybe a year or so of that, I kind of dropped it and went to the bass guitar because, stringed instrument wasn't as complex as a guitar in the sense that there are fewer strings. So kind of an easier concept to grasp. Plus my dad played guitar, so playing bass for him would be helpful. And I did that for a little while and then ultimately graduated to guitar. And I started writing my own material probably around the age of like 13. And I was really self-conscious about being a singer. I didn't really like my voice. And so I was trying to write songs to sing like my dad did. And I remember just being kind of discouraged. And I told my dad, I was just like, I just can't sing. This gives you a good insight into the kind of person my dad was. He was like, no, screw that. You can sing. And so, I couldn't really argue with him. So after that, I kept on singing. And I'm really glad that he was so pushy about it because
that's awesome.
Yeah. So really just music's been a lifelong thing for me and really just influenced by my dad.
No, that's really cool. I love to hear that kind of personal influence. I didn't expect that, and no, that's awesome. And what's interesting is kind of how you jumped from instrument to instrument before finally like landing on your main one here, guitar. But you are a bit of a one-man band. Can you tell us how that came about?
Well, I previously had a band in high school, and we were trying to, we were doing the same kind of thing. I was writing original music, and we were going to call ourselves Entity Reborn because my dad's band was always called Entity. So we were, again, emulating, But that kind of fell apart. My good friend, Dean, who was in Laguna Munta, we'll get back to him. He was in our high school. Anyway, he was in the band, and he ended up changing high school. So that kind of changed that dynamic. So we kind of formed a new group with me and Cody Fernandez of Jack Irons fame.
Nice.
Another guitar player friend, and then a kid he wasn't really in our crew, but he was a drummer. So we joined up and we created a metal band because we were really into metal at the time. And my dad, again, always influencing. He said, "You know what would be a great name for a band? Sectarian violence." Because always on the radio was, sectarian violence today erupted in Iraq, that kind of thing. And he was like, it's perfect publicity and it's very metal. So awesome. We did that, and we were lucky enough. Our senior year, I think it was, each of us had a free period, and our music teacher was such a cool dude. Gary Yamani was his name. Awesome guy, treated us so well. Since we all had the free period, he gave us a music class for ourselves where we could actually work on our music and get credit for it.
Wow, that's cool.
So,
nice.
No, it was sophomore year. Yeah, oh no, it was amazing. This guy was incredible. It was actually sophomore year, but we recorded a CD in that class, and we played a handful of gigs. I think 6 or 7 gigs in total, and our drummer was, of course, older than us. He graduated and kind of was supposed to move on to bigger and better things. We never really talked to him after that because he was off doing his own thing. And we got another drummer younger than us, and the dude was killer, double bass, just like you want in a killer metal drummer. Emulated some of my favorite drummers to the point where I kept calling him the wrong name. Like we met the guy, and his name was Alex, and I kept calling him Scott. And I felt bad about it, but when I kind of thought back, I'm like, well, Scott Travis is the drummer from Judas Priest, who was my favorite drummer. So I feel like he was a compliment, me not really. Right. So that went on for probably about a year, and it just kind of got to the point where we weren't really going anywhere, and we wouldn't practice as often as we could because we'd call up the drummer to practice, and his mom would answer the phone and be like, "Oh yeah, he's in jail."
Oh geez.
It
does make it tough.
Yeah, and then there was tension between me and the other guitar player, and it's rough. It's rough trying to. It's hard to have confidence as a creator in your own product. It's hard to sell yourself. That's a big issue I have, where it's hard to just be like, well, you should have me play this show because I'm the best of the best and you're going to want me there. It's hard for me to say that because I just don't have that kind of, I'm just not that cocky. I kind of try to keep it modest and be like, well, I play rock and roll. This is what I do. So I think that mentality was an issue for me being a leader of a band.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
So ultimately, it just led to us. My guitar player was like, well, I'm going to quit the band. And when he said that, I just kind of saw it as the out. I'm like, okay, great. This is my chance to kind of break off from this. I'm exhausted with it anyway. So he quit, and I said, okay, well, I'm done anyway. And for a while after that, I was very focused on wanting to do instrumental pieces because I wanted to keep the music as simple as possible. And like, what's simpler than me laying down a couple guitar tracks?
Okay.
And I didn't go anywhere with that. That was just for fun. That was kind of my private recording time. It was kind of a time where I had sort of lost passion because of all the drama.
Yeah, it's hard to keep a band together.
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing to do.
That's kind of what led to me being the one-man band. It was originally going to be a duo. My good friend Dean was a part of the original duo. We're still good friends. We were going to be a duo. We practiced for a while, and my girlfriend got us a gig at the bar she was working at, and we got a pretty good reception. And I'm sorry if I'm dragging on here. I'm just trying to give you guys the full story here.
Man, I like it.
Oh, that's perfect.
Okay, right on. Well, I work at a video store, believe it or not, and I was still working at a video store at this point in the story back when we were doing the duo, and I was going to get laid off because we had 2 locations at this point. They were going to close a location, and I was getting laid off because I wasn't like part of the senior staff because there's been people who've been working there for like 20 years. So they were going to lay me off, and it was kind of the kick in the ass I needed. It was like, okay,
really?
Yeah, I work way better under pressure. If there's like a pendulum swinging above my head, it's that really gets me into gear. So it was like, okay, Chris, you're about to lose your job, and you don't know what job you're going to get. You don't want to get some crappy job, but now's the time to really push your music and really pursue that and try to gig and get yourself out there. So I kind of kicked it into overdrive compared to what we had been doing. I'm like, okay, we got to schedule gigs. We got to do this. We got to do a photo shoot for the Facebook page. We got to start doing this. And it was just overwhelming for Dean because he has other passions that he wants to pursue. And I think once I kind of kicked into that next gear, we both kind of realized that it was more than he had signed up for.
Okay, yeah.
So I was kind of like, I don't think, what I think at the pace I'm going, I don't think it's going to work for the pace that you want to do. And so we kind of amicably, separated, and I became the solo act, Laguna Munta. And Dean's he's my best friend. He's still a huge part of my life. I always send him the tracks first. He's always constantly talking to me about what I'm working on. He's still very much involved, just not actively on stage.
I see. Okay. Well, yeah, man, it's wild to hear your story from where you started to where you are now. You've kind of gone through a lot of different iterations and whatnot.
I mean,
yeah,
honestly, it seems like you've gone through a classic rock tale as well.
Yeah. Well, it's classic to me, man. And my dad always had trouble with bands, so I kind of I knew that going into it that it was going to be hard. And
right.
I think ultimately, I would like to have a band because everybody who sees me perform, they all tell me the same thing, or a variation of it. It's like, oh, you got I love your music. You got whatever, this or that. They're all very complimentary. Most people who don't really care, I guess they just don't talk to me. But the people who do, they're complimentary, and they just say stuff like, if you had a band, some of those songs you have could bring down the house.
Huh.
One guy said that to me, and then I was like, I kind of thought about it, and then I played a gig. It was actually the last gig I played before quarantine, and I played the show. And afterwards, I was like, looking around trying to find the booking agent for the venue, and I went and took him my card. I'm like, hey, so and so said to talk to you about this, and I handed him my card, and he's like, oh, about booking a show, and I'm like, yeah, and he goes, get yourself a band together.
What? Yeah. Didn't you
Just
be like, I am the band, yo?
Just the first thing. He didn't even bat an eyelash. Nothing
Damn.
came out of his mouth besides that. Get yourself a band together now. And it kind of crushes your heart a little bit because.
Why do you think that is? Why is there such a stigma against an individual act like that?
I mean, I do see how I could see from a perspective how it just looks. I could look cheesy,
huh?
And honestly, I've thought about this too. It's like, I'm going to bring up the Beatles just because I already talked about them earlier. But Kiss, it's like when you look at Kiss, you have 4 options of dudes that you're like, oh, which one do you think's the coolest? And you have 4 separate personalities to latch on to for each individual person. So with me, it's like you like me or you don't. You don't have any. There's no other options.
Perhaps it's more of a from their perspective, it's more of a marketing thing. They find it easier to market a larger group, perhaps.
Yeah, I guess. And I mean, I can get loud as a band. I just take my backing tracks with me. We hook them up into the house PA.
Exactly.
And it sounds like a band's
That's
in
what
there.
I'm saying. That's why I'm always a little surprised to hear stuff like that. To me, I don't.
You probably get yourself a hype man like rappers have.
Give myself a John Goblicon.
There you go.
Well, I've thought about that too, actually, because I have my astronaut character Chuck. Part of me was like, well, what if I was even thinking, what if I just filmed myself playing other instruments and like projected them on a screen while I was playing live? Would that make people happy?
Like that probably could. I mean, with the advent of technology, I mean, there's a lot more.
Hey,
you could say like visual artists out there, where instead of an actual band, it's mainly one person, but they programmed this whole thing.
Well, you even think about like the Japanese character Miku. I mean, that's literally a digital character. That's not even there's no real person there.
Exactly.
I've considered a lot of this kind of stuff, even just like absurd stuff, just like dressing up mannequins and just hanging a guitar on a mannequin, stuff like that. But obviously, that would be a huge undertaking, and it'd be way easier to A, continue like I have been, or B, put a band together. But I live in a small town. Taos is where I live. It's a super small town, and everybody who's a musician is already in a band, you know.
Damn.
There's probably like 4 drummers in town, and they're all in like 6 bands, you know.
You got to do the classic like tryout auditions, like post somewhere and be like, all right, come to the such and such auditorium and try out. And
yeah, we tried that once in the past.
Oh, really?
With sectarian violence. Well, nobody called.
Damn, really?
That's how well it went.
Tough break on that one.
Yeah, and it would be tricky for me to put a band together because, well, I've always been the primary songwriter in any group I've been in, and I'm a very, well, yeah, I would say controlling about how I want my music played. Like if I wrote it this way, I want it played this way.
Interesting, yeah.
And you know, I could see how, like for me as a creative, I wouldn't want to be in a band with somebody telling me that. So I could see how that would turn some people off.
Okay, yeah.
So I would need to find the right group of people who are just musicians who are down to just kind of play. I'm obviously open to input. I think I'm a different person I was than I was when I was 15.
Well, you know, it's interesting. Sorry to interrupt, but it kind of, you know, and we don't have to harp on this too much longer. We'll get back into your music here. But just a thought occurred to me: you could hire like a backup band or something, essentially, as to play your music.
Well, that would be great, honestly, because yeah. Well, and that would work for me. But I would also love to get a group of people together that I could vibe with, and it would be fun to play with. But there's just that caveat of
exactly.
Yeah, it's just the caveat of me, like, I wrote the song this way and I want it to be played this way. Not to say if you showed me something that was better, I'm like you think of like a film director, you know, it's like, okay, we're going to do one take like it is in the script, and we're going to do one take kind of freestyle, but ultimately I get to choose which is better because I'm the director. And that's kind of how I feel about the music. You know, I would be open to things, but ultimately I would have final say.
Yeah, I definitely see what you mean. Yeah, like you're going to need the right group to kind of be able to put that together, really.
Yeah, and in a small town, it's tricky, slim pickings.
Yeah, really. But you know, I do feel like you have that full sound already. So regardless of whether you end up going and getting a band or not, you continue the solo route. I do feel like the sound you have already is already a full sound. You don't necessarily need. It's not like it's missing something. You know.
Yeah, I agree, and I feel like the only thing it is missing is live. If you have multiple musicians on the stage, excuse me, you have that energy.
Right. Okay.
And yeah, I do miss playing with other musicians because you feed off of each other. It's a symbiotic relationship, and when it's just, I'll throw in some comedy. When I press the wrong button and I start playing the wrong track, oh my God, the band's drunk again. Oh God. But there is a lack of communicative energy on stage that I would like to have that you would have with a band.
Yeah. Yeah, you almost have to kind of to fill in that void. You kind of almost have to up your own communicative energy with the audience.
And I feel like I do. I've always been comfortable in front of a crowd, and I've always enjoyed being a front man, and I've always had fun interacting with the crowd, and that part's always come pretty naturally to me. I've always enjoyed being a performer. I've always loved entertaining people.
Well, that's great. Yeah, I'm sure that a lot of that comes from your father.
Oh yeah, well, he was kind of always a goofball, just joking around, making people laugh, and that definitely influenced me as well.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, I'd love to pull up one of our first pages that we're going to share here today, and which is your website. You have a Bandcamp. And where you can check out some of the music. Now, is this your full discography, or do you have other stuff out there as well?
This is all I have available to the public right now.
I noticed there's and you can see those in the chat and see this. Should be able to see this now. At the top here, it looks like there's an advertisement for. Is that a new album, Chuck?
That's the album I'm currently working on, and I have been working on it for some time.
Yeah, I love the art on that. The art really came out nice.
Pablo Romero is a fantastic artist. I saw him on Twitter and I started following him, and he does this I think he calls it realistic style, but I saw it and I immediately was like, that's the look I need for my album cover. I had previously designed this image with Chuck on the moon with this Cadillac parked next to him. And I sent it to Pablo and I said, can you just do that, but in your kick-ass style? And he crushed it.
Yeah, dude, he really came out so nice. Yeah, he really did nail it.
Once I finish the album, it's gonna be a good package. But until then, it's just beautiful artwork.
Well, hey man, every good album takes time. Some musicians take years and years and years to come out with new albums. So it's a process, that's for sure.
I don't want to be the next Chinese Democracy.
How long was their wait?
Well, that's Guns N' Roses, Axl Rose.
Oh, that one of their. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it took him 8 years to do the album.
Oh my gosh! Oof. Yeah, that's a long time.
and it's like,
seriously.
At that point, no matter how good the album is, people are gonna be really upset because
they've been waiting for it for so long.
8 years of hype. You're never gonna be able to meet the expectations.
I think Metallica did the same thing with Saint Anger, and it took them like 5 years or something because 2 of them were in rehab. And they were like, "No, we're gonna wait for them to get out." And
that's a little different, yeah.
Well,
I know that sounds way different.
I know that's a much maligned album by a lot of Metallica fans.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, because a lot of their stuff changed because a lot of people feel that a lot of the anger that they had was like kind of gone. Yeah, they weren't doing the same thing that they used to, so their emotions were different, and it came out in music.
Like. And I feel for musicians because as a musician, I feel like there's that 1-to-1 kind of stick to your roots, but at the same time you don't want to stay the same. You want to evolve and change as you grow as a person.
So
it's like,
definitely.
Man, that's such a fine line you have to walk, right?
Well, and I'm all about that, and that's why the second album, Chuck, is a concept album because I want to set the precedent with my fans that I'm gonna do whatever I want musically.
Nice.
Otherwise, why would I be doing this?
Exactly. What's the point?
Yeah, and I have a lot of ideas and stuff that I want to do, and I'm definitely don't want to limit myself. So I think doing the first album as a rock and roll album, but it's great because I'm rock and roll oriented. But if you do another rock and roll album right after that, then you're setting a precedent.
True, and then people will be expecting that from you every time.
Yeah, and I would say that you can always expect rock and roll from Laguna Munta, but expect a lot of other things too.
Nice, man. Yeah, this actually makes me really excited. I'm excited to check that out. And your first album is Plugs Out, is that right?
Yeah, and that's one I recorded at home on a 4-track digital recorder that my girlfriend bought me for Christmas.
Very nice.
And this was before I kind of upgraded to a computer. This was all in a little box in my living room, and if I wanted to run effects into it, I had to run them. I had to literally if I want reverb on my voice, there was some reverb built into the box, but otherwise, what I'm basically trying to say is that I had no post production.
And is that why you call it Plugs Out?
Well, it's called Plugs Out because obviously I've got the space theme going, and with spacecraft or aircraft, before they actually the Apollo missions, before they would send up the Apollo I can't think of the word craft, they would do a Plugs Out test, which is they would unplug it. They would literally unplug it from the power and everything here on the ground, and when they would see if it could function on its own.
Oh wow.
And it's the Plugs Out test. So that's why the first album is called Plugs Out, because it's kind of the test. It was I refer to it as the demo CD because it's not like professionally recorded by any means, and it's just something I made at home. But I'm really proud of how it sounds and how it came out with the limited technology I created it with.
Yeah, should we preview a tune here?
Yeah, pick whichever one. Oh, why don't you go ahead and throw on Count Me Out, because I could tell you a little story about that one.
Nice. Hopefully that's coming through for everybody there.
right up, get in line, swipe your card, give away your time, give it all away. At least you're getting paid. Working hard and staying still. Get your hours, get your bill. It all stays the same, and then you fade away. I wonder what they'll talk about when they put my body in the ground. Oh, he worked so hard, but never made it that far. So when you're counting heads on the killing floor, counting the cattle coming through the door, you can count me out. Ooh, you can count me out.
Yeah, if you want to cut it there.
Sure, man.
So-
That's awesome, dude.
That one is was inspired by the job I got after I got laid off from the video store.
What, really? How's that?
Well, I got a job, and at a place here in town that I was like, oh, this will be a good job. It's a local business. I'm excited to work here. And then I got the job, and granted, it wasn't a hard job. I'm bagging groceries. Like, that's not a hard job. I'm not out there breaking my back or anything like that. But for me, it was soul crushing.
Oh man.
Because I was there, I was there full time, and I'm just, I don't know. It really started to change who I was as a person. Even my girlfriend was like, she reflects back on the time when I was working there, and I just wasn't the same person because it was, I don't know. It's just, some jobs aren't for some people. And so that's why I wrote that song, because, it's like, step right up, get in line, swipe your card, give away your time. Because it created this whole mentality in me, because in our culture, it's all about, oh, work really hard while you're young, and then you can get old and retire. Right? That's kind of what we've all been raised with. But for me, it's like, well, it's like, I don't know how long I'm going to live, so I better live right now. And, this world is very insecure, monetarily and otherwise, so there's no guarantees at all. So you might as well live the life you want to live right now, take the chance to do what you want, and be happy. Otherwise, you're going to regret it later.
Yeah, man, that's so true, isn't it?
So that job inspired
awesome.
that song and that mentality in me, that I'm like, well, I don't know how long I've got on this planet, and at least I should at least try to do what I want and live what I would consider my best life.
And that kind of goes into your mentality of kind of playing how you want to play it, in a sense.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. If I'm playing music, I'm going to play the type of music I want and have fun, because it's really.
I love the tune on that one. The I don't know what you would call it. The you're obviously know more about music than I do, but the guitar rhythm, I guess you might say.
Yeah, it's just like, it's kind of a blues shuffle. It's what I would say.
Okay, nice. Yeah, it has a lot of energy, I felt like.
Well, there are certain songs that I've written that really pump out the energy, and it's all about the realities behind them, because I had that song. Yeah, it's got a lot of life and energy in it, because when I wrote it, I meant it.
Wow.
And that's,
so you really take it to a personal level with your music.
Yeah, and that always hasn't been the case. I mean, there's always going to be songs that you write that are just songs. Obviously, these bands have never ridden into battle with a bunch of dudes wielding axes, and you know what I'm saying? There are songs that are just songs, and I have a lot of songs that are just songs, but when I started to realize that I needed a little more depth was when I was listening to one of my favorite bands, Pink Floyd.
Okay.
And I was listening to their music, and I said, well, this has so much reality and so much emotional content that it made me feel phony for writing songs that were like fantastical.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And so, of course, I had an extreme reaction. Obviously, still now I write songs that are fantastical, but it really it really made me think
Opened
about,
your
well,
eyes.
I should try to write something a little more real and a little more grounded in me, and try to emote and express myself through the music. And ever since then, I still write songs that are just songs, but a lot of the time it comes from a real place. Like Count Me Out, that comes from a real place. And Money People, which is also on Plugs Out, that comes from a real place. Every Time I Blink, that's a real one. On My Way, that's a real one.
Wow,
all the others
yeah.
are kind of just songs, but.
And I actually like this one you didn't mention here, but Laguna Munta is a good track. I previewed that one on a little video I did a week ago. And that one's cool. That one's kind of like your title track, almost introducing the world to Laguna Munta.
Yeah, and it's and now I haven't thought about it in a while because I haven't listened to this album in a bit, but Laguna Munta is also a song that's from a real place, because it's basically me sitting in a room with myself, patting myself on the back, being like, Chris, it's okay. Laguna Munta, your way out. Have no doubt, Chris. It's about be like, Laguna Munta is my chance to be free and express myself and to take a chance.
And continue your musical journey, really.
Yeah, and it's also your opportunity as the audience to come with me and check it out and have some fun and go on this creative journey.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, that's really cool. I love to hear your inspirations like that and kind of where you got started. That's really interesting. Now, what made you want to create a Bandcamp website and use your music out that way?
Well, I have a DistroKid set up, and that's like a whole other deal where you kind of, if somebody plays your song, you get like 0.003 of a penny or something like that.
They're
like a distribution website, and they put it out to like iTunes and all that kind of stuff, Amazon, so you can find the music out there.
Well, that's great.
But Bandcamp is better for me just because it's more direct to the artist. So basically, the reason I did Bandcamp is because I've had DistroKid for 2 years and I've made like $15. I've had Bandcamp for like a few months and I think I've made like $16. So it's obviously I'm an indie artist, so it's just a few bucks here and there. But
trust us, we as indie comic creators, we know your pain.
You guys have a whole different set of things to worry about. So geez.
Yeah, indie it's a grind. Me and Matt always talk about it's the grind.
Yeah, and if you love it, that's that's the only reason to pursue it, because otherwise it's just gonna grind you.
Right, exactly. That is important to know, honestly. Some people don't think about that when they first get started on something like that.
Yeah,
I think with any kind of real passion and project, I think that's how it always is, no matter what you're doing. If you're not really passionate about it, it's gonna wear you down sooner or later. Like, that's why normal jobs. That's why when Laguna was talking about with his job and being laid off and everything, it hit close to home, because that's happened to me a few times, and it's like I totally get that feeling, which is why it's like for me, no matter what, I'm glad I'm doing what I'm doing. I feel a little bit better. I feel as if a lot of my time isn't necessarily wasted, even though I'm still working, and that's the only place I feel I'm wasting my time.
Yeah, I hear you 100%. I mean, I got my video store job back these days, so I'm not at a soul crushing job, but when I'm there, I'm just working. I'm not working on furthering my music, but pays the bills.
You're back. Are you back at the same video store?
I am. Yeah.
Nice. Did you show them? Have you play for them that track? Like, hey, was inspired by this place. You totally should. It'd be like, oh, maybe that'll touch their hearts.
What'd you say? I didn't catch what you said.
Oh, maybe you should. I was just thinking it'd be funny if you like go back and be like, hey guys, listen to this track. It's inspired by this place.
Oh, well, the Count Me Out was inspired by the job I hated, so I don't know if they'd appreciate that.
Oh no, okay. I thought there was another one. I thought there was a different one you had inspired by the video store.
Oh no, I don't.
Fair enough.
Walk in there with a boombox playing the song.
Maybe that'll be the next one then, man. About how you've come back to the video store. That could be your new single.
Oh God, yeah. I'm back behind the counter slinging DVDs.
Right. Well, that's funny, man. Well, that's awesome. I mean, I love seeing this album here. So will Chuck be your second album then?
Yeah, Chuck will be the second full official album, and what Chuck is going to be about is Chuck himself. It's an origin story. Yeah. It's an origin for him, and it will also give further backstory to Laguna Munta, what really that is.
Okay, what that concept means and what the words mean.
Yeah, it'll further the lore of Laguna Munta, and if you listen to the songs, if you listen to the song Laguna Munta, the lyrics pretty much explain what it is, but Chuck's gonna flesh that out a lot more.
And can you tell us maybe a little bit about the meaning behind the name, or is that something that you want people to discover in the music?
Well, I mean, I can tell you, but if you listen to the album Laguna Munta, well, I'm not going to tell you directly. How's that?
Yeah, don't tell us. I was going to say, don't necessarily give it all away, right?
Well, the opening lyrics of Laguna Munta are just outside the atmosphere. There's a way out of here. So that's your biggest clue. And it says catch a flight, climb on board, no request will be ignored. So it's all in there. It's not what I would call subtle.
I like it. I think I'm starting to see grasps of it, and see where you might be going with that, and kind of with the moon iconography we see here as well on the Plugs Out.
Yeah, and the Chuck album will just further the lore. I'm trying to, because I like the idea of having some lore about the band name and kind of I love science fiction. It's my favorite genre, and I've always wanted to tell a science fiction story. I mean, I've tried. When I was 19, I started writing a science fiction novel that I have not finished. I've got like 180 pages of an unfinished sci-fi novel because I don't know. It's tough. Just words is difficult.
Oh my God, yeah.
You throw some music in there and something
or
you
some
can
pictures in our case.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I originally wanted to do a graphic novel with what.
Oh, interesting. You still should, dude. I honestly, that band Coheed and Cambria, how they put out comics along with their albums for concept albums.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a whole comic book series based on the music, or the music's based on it rather.
Cool. I'm familiar with Brendan Smalls.
Nice. Okay.
Galacticon, and I know he put out a graphic novel for that, but I'm not aware.
Okay, that's
and he did. It's Metalocalypse, right? That's how you pronounce the name of the show. He did that one as kind of like his goof off of on how a lot of people see pretty much like most metal bands and on how they're godlike in their eyes.
I love that show. It's classic.
It's always a classic. Anything from Brandon Smalls is always a classic.
That's funny.
He's kind of got that Midas touch.
Even Home Movies, which has really shitty animation, really bad character design, just the show itself and how it portrays itself is just gold. It is genius.
Jack Irons introduced me to that show, so I've watched quite a bit of that with him back in the day, and yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, that's funny, man. I think actually that would be kind of cool if you eventually if you did put out a comic with it. I feel like who in our community definitely would be super stoked about that.
Well, I've discussed it, and I don't know if it's some as far as the Chuck thing is never. I mean, I messed with the idea in my head of for shows. I was going to put out flyers for my shows, and each flyer for the show, like different shows, was going to be one page of the comic, and it was going to tell the story.
That's cool.
And so. And I never went anywhere with it because the story I had come up with, I totally altered. And then I just got so heavy into working on the album, I kind of abandoned that idea entirely. But now, having discussed it with some of my inner circle, the consensus, and I kind of agree with, is that it would kind of wreck the concept album to give it away visually.
Interesting.
Because when you're just hearing it, you have to interpret a lot more on your own, whereas, a picture just says, there it is.
Yes. Instead of like just one art piece like you did with the cover, and that leads to many different interpretations like the music does, having a series of images kind of portraying a story it really ruins that magic with it.
Yeah, you corner yourself into a single narrative, whereas with music, the beauty of music is 5 people can listen to a song and each of them gets something different from it.
That's pretty smart, actually. Yeah.
Well, I can't take credit for that one. That was pointed out to me, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's a good point. I wouldn't want to ruin the mystique that I'm trying to create.
Fair enough. So maybe on a future album, perhaps then, or maybe something for Plugs Out. But
well, I have the novel I tried to write. It's a totally different sci-fi story, and if I was ever going to pursue that, medium, it would be with that story.
Now, is that completely unrelated to Laguna Munta and lore and all that stuff?
Oh, completely unrelated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you really want to keep the visuals to the minimum to kind of really keep the, kind of like you said, the interpretations open, and give people something more ethereal, perhaps.
Yeah, and just give people's imaginations a chance. Well, just a chance, because like I said, if you show them, they have no chance to imagine anything. And I'm really putting a lot of work into trying to create visuals through sound. I'm really trying to create.
Wow. Man, I can't wait.
I hope. Yeah. See, I don't want to overhype this because it's close to my heart. It's an important project for me, and I'm really trying my hardest not to be heavy-handed with the storytelling. I'm also trying my hardest not to be too light touched with the storytelling. You got to really try to find that middle ground where you're giving the audience enough to pull them in, but not so much to where they're like, I know what this is and I'm not into it. This is boring. You need to leave a chance for discovery. My girlfriend said subtlety is the opportunity for discovery, and I totally 100% agree with that.
That's very true. Just like subtlety can also, it's kind of like a bait on a hook, and someone's just reeling it in real slow.
Yeah, and that's what I hope to do with this album. And I know it's such a concept albums are a tricky game. They're not gonna appeal to everybody, but I'm definitely not gonna appeal to everybody. So I'm okay with that. What'd you say?
Kind of like you said earlier, you're just here to be yourself, man, and do what you love.
Yeah, and a concept album, as soon as I thought of the idea, I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. And it's fun because working on the Chuck album for the most part has been a joyous experience because it's all brand new material. It's all creative. It's not like I'm, I've written 20 songs and it's like, let's go in the studio and record these 20 songs. Cause we know the problem I have with that. And the problem I had recording Plugs Out was my expectations. I know how the song is supposed to sound. Thusly, it needs to be recorded a very specific way. And that got really frustrating for me because I'm like, I know how the song goes. I've been playing it for a year or years in some cases. So it needs to sound just like this. So I was kind of banging my head against the wall while recording Plugs Out. Whereas with this Chuck album, it's all very new and expressive and brand new. So cool. There's nothing to compare it to, so it's all fresh and it's very free flowing. And it's a lot better of an experience for me.
Nice, man. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense because it's like you said, it's a brand new thing that wasn't something that you've been working on originally as your first. With the first album, I imagine these are things that some are going to be older songs, some are going to be newer songs. But with this new album, everything, like you said, everything is new.
Exactly, yeah. And on the first album, I didn't expect to write new songs during the recording process, but I did because I think it was just because of boredom. So when I was recording Plugs Out, it was originally going to be all these old songs that I'd already established. But as I was working on the album, I got so bored and it was so tedious that I just started writing new songs kind of. I don't know they just came to me. I didn't force them out of me, but the songs came as I was working on this album and they went on the album. It's very organic, but I'm glad that it happened that way because they were fresh. They didn't have to be compared to anything. And it kind of made the experience a little bit better.
Yeah, and I think it's nice to have a mixture of on that first album, have a little mixture of both, honestly.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It definitely is. There's some older tunes and then stuff that's written during the recording process.
Very nice. Now looking at the page here, we also have some of your other singles that you've released. We have some Jack Irons tunes as well as Stroke of Midnight. And I actually wanted to ask, is Stroke of Midnight, is that a single for Chuck or is that a non-album single?
Oh, that's just a single, and I threw Chuck on it because just Chuck's cool.
He's cool, man. Where'd you come up with the idea for Chuck?
You know, I honestly, if it's difficult to remember, but what I do remember is that I was with my girlfriend out of town in Roswell visiting her family, and we were at this like, tourist shop.
Roswell.
And there's this little, yeah, we don't live that far from there.
I never even thought about that, dude. I've always wanted to go myself.
Yeah, I think the main tourist sites like the UFO museum or whatever it is was closed, so we just went and kind of looked around the town and visited family. But in one of the shops there was this little inflatable astronaut, which I still have, and my girlfriend Misty grabbed it and she goes, "This would be great for like your stage show," because I was trying to incorporate some spacey kind of elements. And then I was like, "Oh, that's great," and we took it. And what I do is I Velcro my tip bucket to like the front of him, so he like stands behind my tip bucket. And I didn't know what to call him. I'm like, well, what do I call this dude? And I didn't want to force the name. I knew it would come to me. And I had a dream one night where me and my girlfriend, we were out. We were like, you know how dreams are, just weird. So we were on like this ski slope because we live right next to a ski mountain, so not that weird. But we were on a ski slope, and we had eaten something at this like outdoor restaurant. And Chuck was there with us before he was named Chuck. He was this big, like, fluffy teddy bear sized version of him, but he was with us. And we were paying and we were walking away. And then I turned back and realized that we'd left the astronaut dude behind. And this is, like I said, this is before I named him. This is where the name came from. And just spontaneously in the dream, I start running at him because I've got to go get him. And I yell, "Chuck!" And so the name amazing. Came to me in a dream, so he's Chuck. And then it kind of just built from there because I wanted to build on the lore of Laguna Munta, and Chuck became an integral part of that.
Well, and that's what I was going to say too. Is looking at the single art here, is you're kind of introducing Chuck to the world. Like the album's forthcoming, but here's the taste, and it's kind of cementing him in that lore and kind of visually giving you kind of an aesthetic and an idea of where you're going forward with it.
Yeah, and he's just so cool. I mean, astronauts are cool. I didn't want to be an astronaut as a kid. Only as an adult do I really feel like I want to be an astronaut. But it just looks cool. And I mean, he drives a space Cadillac.
And I mean, especially with everything going on with SpaceX, I mean, it's space travel is coming around again as being a big happening thing right now. So it definitely feels like a right time.
Oh yeah, fortunate timing for sure, definitely. And I totally ripped off the idea of him having a car from heavy metal.
Nice.
I could see that.
Yeah, but
you could even say a little bit of Spaceballs as well, but heavy metal is a little bit better.
Yeah, and instead of a Corvette, I have him driving a Cadillac because you don't want to drive a topless car in space. You want to seal in there.
No,
and you want luxury.
You need some kind of air pressure.
You want luxury.
Yeah, luxury, Exactly. We're not driving a Tesla up there.
Even though I would love to, because it would probably just drive itself.
Oh, man. That's awesome. Now, should we play another track here? We can go play maybe like 30 seconds of a track here. Obviously, want to give the whole thing away. But what are you thinking? What are you feeling right now?
Well, why don't you, if you want to play a clip, why don't you play a clip from The Ambush at Coyote Pass? Because that's my latest Jack Irons single, and it's kind of, I kind of stepped into more of the idea of it being a technological future and combining that with the Old West vibe with this track. I tried to make it I was trying to bridge the gap because the first two tracks are pretty Western heavy with a little bit of like kind of futuristic vibes. But this one, I feel like I stepped into the door a little more fully.
Nice, that's awesome, and I just love the art here. Kind of evoking the vibe of what we're about to listen. Ambush at Coyote Pass, and here we go. That's awesome, man. I really see what you mean about diving into the technological side of it. It definitely kind of techno vibe almost.
Totally. Mm-hmm. And when I write those Jack Irons tracks, I really just try to come up with a cool Western riff or vibe, and then it's not like I'm going to write a song called Ambush at Coyote Pass, and then I write it. I just kind of let the song tell me what the vibe is. And so in this one, when you listen to the full track, I kind of envision this ambush, because at the beginning it kind of got that like build where it's just like, okay, it's kind of setting the stage, and I imagine a couple guys on different sides of a canyon like getting up there with their Winchesters and getting ready to like ambush somebody, and they kind of give each other the signal, you know. And then when the track kicks in, you hear a gunshot, and then it just kind of takes off and the energy really spikes, you know. And that's of course the confrontation when the gunfight's happening, and then afterwards you kind of figure out who was triumphant, and there's a little bit of voice acting in there.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
That's fun, man. Oh, that's cool. Dude, I love that. And obviously you mentioned earlier Cody was a former bandmate, which was really cool to find out. I did not know that.
Oh, and also my oldest friend. I've known him since preschool.
Really? Oh wow. That's amazing.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, man. I love that. I love to see you guys collaborating on stuff like this together.
Oh yeah. I mean, the Jack Iron scripts, I know Cody had those for years, and
really?
Oh yeah, I don't know how long he'd been working on them, but when I finally saw him, he got Max to do the art and stuff, and I was like, oh my God, I got to get involved with this, because this is awesome. I need to get on the Jack Irons train.
Really, yeah. And everyone who gets on the Jack Irons train, they don't get off.
Why would you, man? It's such a good ride.
It is. Mm-hmm. No, that's awesome, man. And I think you've really done a great job of capturing the atmosphere and the themes of the story that Cody's putting out.
Thanks. I try to use the art as inspiration, and I grew up watching westerns as well. So I've always been a lover of the Western genre as well as sci-fi. So Jack Irons is right up my alley.
Not to mention, New Mexico kind of really gives you that landscape of a Western.
Yeah.
Growing that with its history of like sci-fi or like UFOs and everything, that really builds up a lot of the sci-fi aspect too.
Yeah, we got Billy the Kid and aliens.
What's better than that?
Not much. Not much.
Not at all, man.
The only thing maybe is possibly the Alamo for the West, but
you guys got dinosaur bones, right?
In New Mexico, yeah.
Yes, you got dinosaurs as well. You got aliens, dinosaurs,
volcanoes.
All right, never mind. Right? Never mind. Maybe I should move to New Mexico for all this stuff.
It's beautiful here. And another thing about growing up watching westerns and living in New Mexico, like every other western you're watching, you're like, yeah, that could be Taos. So looking at the scenery, you're like, I feel like I've been there. Yeah, that looks familiar.
No, my sister, she's an archaeologist, and she got to do a field school in Taos a number of years back.
Oh, cool.
And she told me about the Taos lightning. Are you familiar with the Taos lightning?
The whiskey?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've never actually had any.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, she found an old bottle on one of her dig sites. She was telling me about it.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. That's cool.
So yeah, when I heard heard you're from Taos, I was like, oh, that's cool. I know a little bit about the areas and that stuff. So
it's such a small town, but it's so famous.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
It's definitely got there's a special energy here. It's got I've seen a lot of people leave Taos, and a lot of people always kind of get pulled back. There's something magnetic, and there's a strong energy about this place. It's awesome.
Yeah, she really loved it. She told me how much it was such a great place and such a great experience and whatnot to go there. Yeah, that's awesome. Now you also did some singles for us recently, or for me.
I did.
For our game, which was awesome. It was a cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can pull those up to share. That
was fun to do.
Yeah, how'd you approach kind of doing?
I'm glad.
Definitely, it seems a bit of a different, out of your wheelhouse, so to speak. Perhaps, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can't say there's I can't say there's any kind of secret or anything. So when you contacted me about doing that, part of me was like, I can do that. I was, part of me was like super confident about it, and then the other half was like, well, you don't really, maybe. So the only approach I took was I pulled up the Cyberpunk Red images just to kind of I almost listened to some cyberpunk music. I almost did. But then I was like, no, that's going to influence me too much.
Oh yeah. I always think about that.
I could kind of see that, because I was thinking maybe synthwave, but that really does kind of hit close to cyberpunk music as well. So,
and I
very much see that.
And I wouldn't know the difference between those, because that's a genre. Those are genres I'm not familiar with.
Okay, yeah.
But I pulled up like a cyberpunk mix on YouTube, and I listened to like 10 seconds of it, and I'm like, no, I can't do this.
No,
it's gonna screw me up. So I went to my keyboard, because I'm like, well, if I'm gonna do some cyberpunk, it's got to have some synth sounds, and it's got to be electronic. So I went, and honestly, I think the first one what was the first one I did? Oh, geez. I think it was the emotional one was the first one I worked on. And I just started playing some chords, and I was like, okay, that works. That's got a good vibe. And I like I said, I immediately started working on it. Even before we closed the contract, I was just like, I started working on it like same day.
Really?
Because yeah, well, I figured it would like, yeah, we're gonna do this, and the time constraints that you had mentioned, I'm like, okay, well, I better get cracking on this. So
honest, that worked out really well.
Oh, well, I'm glad, and I'm like I said, I work well under pressure, so I think that shows it.
Nice.
But I just went to the keyboard, and I just came up with a kind of a little riff, that I liked, and then I just built on it, and that's basically what I did with every track. I just found some, and the emotional one and the action one have similar themes in them, but they're all in the key of A, because I wanted them to feel like they went together, and yeah, same approach for everyone. I just walked up to the keyboard, started playing some stuff, and when I found something I liked, I just stuck with it and then just built on it.
Nice, man. And so which one was the first one you said you did?
I think the emotional was the first one I started working on, but it took me the longest to complete, incidentally.
Oh, that's funny. Well, let's take a listen here and see what we got. And these were cool, too, because they were designed to be looped. Which actually, obviously, that helps big time in the game for me.
Yeah, and I just pulled up the Cyberpunk Red images while I was listening to it. And I'm like, yeah, this feels right.
Yeah, I feel like he really captured that future retro vibe.
That's actually kind of hard to do. A lot of people think that because of cyberpunk and everything else like that, they kind of feel that it just needs to be more futuristic, but they're not incorporating the fact that just like steampunk, there is a lot of influence of past things. That's why a lot of cyberpunk uses a lot of synthwave music, because it incorporates a lot of that 80s aesthetic and feel, and then it brings it into more of a modern concept.
Well, I'm like incidentally retro. It's like, because that's my vibe in general, is like 70s and 80s music. So it was.
Oh wow! Okay.
I don't even try to sound that way. It's just what sounds right to me.
Mm-hmm. Damn, you're the perfect.
Very understandable. I think that's why I personally fell in love with synthwave and other music like that, because back when I was a kid, always watching 80s movies with my dad and my family members, I'm always like, man, where can I find this music? I really like this. And then never could find it, because you find out that it's usually all was just made for movies and TV shows. And it kind of took about 20 years for it to actually become its own thing.
That's cool.
Right? That's pretty interesting. Now the next step let's see, which one was the second one that you did?
The action.
Okay, let's go with that one next then.
I think this is my favorite. I think the action's my favorite one.
I love this one too. Again, going back to what I said earlier, it's definitely got the most energy of the three tracks, I think. I'm a guy who I'm a sucker for energetic music. It gets me pumped and energized to writing and different things like that. So
I'm surprised you're not into electronica then.
I
mean,
like
That's all that music is. That's
Really?
all that rave music is. Yeah, it's
think-
meant to pump you up and get you moving.
I think if it's not too repetitive, I can get into it. But I find whenever I hear stuff that's kind of in that vein, it's always like repetitive, and that kind of irks me.
Yeah, I listen to some lo-fi hip hop on YouTube, and I find that stuff is pretty cool.
I do understand the repetitiveness because a lot of music these days, even with experimental, it's very repetitive, and it's like, can you guys not come up with other sounds?
Well, and I get that it's kind of supposed to be for like a club scene or a party scene where it just like keeps it going. I get that,
Right.
but that's never been my thing either.
Yeah, me neither, man. I remember, yeah, clubs are so loud, dude. Oh, I went to one time and I was like, I can't hear anything.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm gonna drink, I'll drink at home. Otherwise, that's the only reason I would have to go out, and I would just rather drink at home.
To be honest, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I had a lot of fun, even though a lot of people always said like going to raves and everything, it was more about the drugs and all about the dancing and hooking up with chicks. But I went there just to have a good time. Some of the best parties I went to were raves, and I was like, man, this is crazy. And I'm the one that's sober.
Well, it sounds like you got what you needed out of it.
I did, man. I did. Like it showed me a lot of different things and a lot of different walks of life actually go to that same place for the same reason, all to have a good time and party it out.
It kind of makes me
to normal life the next day.
It makes me think of like just going to a good concert,
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You go see your favorite band and you look at all these different people and like from every demographic, you're like, yeah, we all love this band. And then you tear it up and then you all go home.
That's what's so cool about music is it does actually kind of unite people from all different kind of walks of life to say like, hey, we all love the same thing, and that can connect and unite people together.
Oh yeah. And then you got those, pain in the ass people who just, want to hate you over the band you like, but that's a whole other thing.
That's just them being egotistic in a way.
Yeah.
Hey, they're out there, man.
But I always enjoyed going to like the metal concerts. Like I've seen Judas Priest a couple times. They're my favorite band, and you'd go there.
Oh man, I would love to see Judas Priest.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Dude, I was so fortunate. I got to see them like in 2008 and in 2010.
That's great.
Oh damn! I think it was 2012 or something like that. I went to go see Slayer, and I was like, wow, this is probably a once in a lifetime opportunity for me.
You saw Slayer?
Yeah. I was just a little disappointed because from what I knew of like all their concerts, there was a lot of moshing and like a lot of movement, but the place that they had to play at that time, it was over here in California, we have, I think it's like Mountain View or something like that. It's this amphitheater over by Google headquarters, but it's all grass, and then the front part, it's all seats. It's more made for plays and stuff like that. So when they played, the front didn't really have a lot of like moshing area.
Yeah.
So everybody was moshing way in the back on the hill. So I was like, you know what? I got to go to work the next day. I kind of don't want to break my leg over moshing.
Yeah, that's never been my thing. I'm always the guy just like standing there singing the songs, throwing my hands up every once in a while, just kind of vibing.
Yeah, right.
I'm not trying to get beat up or beat somebody up in a mosh pit.
I'm on the lawn. I'm on the way up on the lawn, just hanging out, man. Well, it depends on the venue, I suppose. But yeah, I was thinking like an outdoor venue. But yeah. But it's the last track. This one here.
Yeah, this one, the mystery one. As I was working on it, I kept turning to my girlfriend and being like, "Does this sound too much like John Carpenter?"
Hey, that's never a bad thing, though.
Yeah. I'm a big fan, so
nice.
But I was definitely getting some
reply. Did she?
Oh
did
well,
she agree?
she said yeah, it kind of does, but you know that's cool.
Yeah. See, there you go. Yeah, no, I was really pleased with how they all turned out, and honestly, they're all really great for the different themes that we wanted.
I'm glad. I'm really glad you enjoy them. And hey, if you want to get commission Laguna Munta for music for your project, just contact Laguna Munta.
And I actually highly recommend you do that because we worked with him also on the Wicked Publishing theme podcast theme, which we're still. I think we're going to try and get
in a similar vein as well.
Oh, in what way? I mean.
Oh, the music is kind of similar to this, where it's kind of more synth forward.
Oh, true. Yeah, you're right. We had.
Yes, it is.
Oh my! Here, actually, I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna put it up to play it. But yeah, I was gonna say like we came out with you like with a lot of stuff. I almost feel kind of bad looking back and like, man, we threw a lot at him, didn't we? Me and Matt each came up with like. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say me and Matt each came up with like some songs each that we liked and wanted to have some influence from, and so we kind of came with like 2 or 3 songs each.
Yeah,
and mine were probably the weirder ones.
I think Opeth was on there.
Ones.
Oh yeah,
was Opeth one of the bands?
Yeah.
Okay, because I remember that standing out. I was like, it's kind of compared to the other stuff I got sent, like Opeth kind of stood out.
That's funny, man. Yeah, I love me some Opeth, especially the older stuff. But I don't know if you are familiar with that band, Laguna Munta.
No, just a few tracks I've heard here and there, but nothing.
Yeah, I think
nothing
it's the
in
same
depth
with me.
Yeah, they're like a melodic death metal band, I think, or something like that.
That sounds like something I could get into.
Yeah, I honestly
death metal was really, really nice. Like back in my younger years, I listened to a lot of Demi Bourgeois. Like they're melodic black metal. They're really fucking good with that shit.
I've heard them again, probably about the same amount as Opeth, just here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can get into the heavier genres of music. Mm-hmm. The part where I disconnect is where it's I can't understand the lyrics when it's just that guttural screaming and I can't understand the words, and also like that super fast blast beaty metal, kind of like Slayer. That I just can't fathom it. There's nothing for me to latch onto and groove with. So those kind of that music just kind of throws me.
Well, since I used to be in a death metal band, the thing that always latched on to me with those wasn't necessarily being able to groove with it, but just that violentness of everything mashed together. It seems like more of what you would kind of experience with sound in like battle and war or even just catastrophe. So I think it was, to me personally, especially while making the music, that's kind of what I felt that the feeling needed to be.
Yeah, I could see that.
Oops.
Thank you. As it was a little loud.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
And this actually got some lead guitar in it, whereas I don't think I put any into the cyberpunk, which is weird. But I tried. Yeah, I tried and it just didn't fit. So ultimately it has to suit the music.
I love the guitar in this though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that it worked for the overall vibe.
And then we had the outro.
Yeah, this is fun. I like this.
Yeah, and honestly, we really liked it too. Yeah, it's very chill. Got a lot of dynamic kind of stuff going on. Nice, man.
Oh, but what you were saying about going into battle, I could totally hear. I get what you're saying, and maybe I think personality is a big factor, and maybe that's why it just never vibed with me.
I can kind of see it because like a lot of people that I knew that listened to death metal, they were like, I really like its hardness, but like I just don't like on how I don't understand the song itself. And it's like I get that. I get that, because a lot of times you can barely hear what the fuck they're saying.
Yeah.
It took me a long time because I had to learn on how to do all of that. So it took me a while to actually start really understanding what they're saying. But because of it, I have like newer, I would say not like newer, but because I learned how to do that, it broadened like more of what they were saying, rather than hearing nothing but chaos. You could actually hear the melancholy melodicness to it.
You kind of learned the language.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can hear that.
Music. I feel like there's a lot of that with music. Like I used to not like rap or hip hop at all, and I like that kind of music a lot more now. And I feel like it's because I didn't understand it, the language of it really back in the day.
Yeah, I think. I don't blindly dislike or like any genre. So, like hip hop, I totally like some old school '90s fun,
Nice.
upbeat, happy, like the fun hip hop.
Nice. You're not a fan of the darker stuff, huh?
I mean,
that seems to be very popular these days, doesn't it?
Again, I think it's just reflective of personality. I've always been optimistic, and I haven't had like a hard life, like some people have. I've had a good life, and I've always, had optimistic people around me and been optimistic. So when I hear that upbeat kind of stuff, it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, totally. No. Yeah. And even at my worst times, I try to be positive and upbeat. So it's kind of, I can't even help it, No,
that's a good attitude to have, honestly. That'll get you.
It really is. It really is. Because being pessimistic, you're just fuck this.
Yeah, I'm pessimistic about some things, but mostly the things that are just out of my control. And at that point, I'm just like, well, screw that. I'll worry about what I can actually worry about.
Yeah, I know, right? That's one of my big things, is trying not to worry about the things that I can't control. Those are always the toughest, man.
Be a lot happier.
Yeah, we could all take some advice from you, man. Now, you've been working on Chuck for a while. You mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans yet for release date, or currently still plugging away at it?
Well, yeah, I of course I have plans, but they say that man plans and the gods laugh.
Yes.
So I won't say what the plan is, because it probably won't happen the way I want it to. But ultimately, I haven't really talked about this yet, but ultimately, when I finish recording the album, I want to do a release of it in physical form. And I'm gonna kind of hold off on the digital release. I want it to be kind of old school physical release exclusive for a while, maybe, and then release it digitally. But I haven't officially announced the plan, but I'll tell you guys. I ultimately want to do a Kickstarter for the album
that'd be cool,
to get it out there to the people. I mean, it's about. For me, it's about getting it to the people who want it, and kind of having a connection, because it just feels weird from my perspective, like working on a track and an album and then just kind of throwing it up on the internet, and then it's like, hey, go listen to my song, and it's, I mean, obviously that's the way it's done.
There.
Yeah, and I don't have a big. I'm not, like we've said, I'm an indie artist, so I don't have a huge audience out there that's just clamoring and drooling over my next release. I have to kind of build the hype up, and I want it to be more of a personal experience for the people who actually want to be involved in the project and actually want to help me make it happen, who actually want a piece of it. So that's what I want to do with Chuck. Once it's done, I want to kind of get people involved, do a campaign, and make it a more personal experience, and get the album to the people who want it.
And what's cool about that is you can offer different perks and tiers. So, obviously you have your basic digital, you might have a physical, but then there could be, from there, it's, who knows, the ball, the sky's the limit, essentially.
Well, I don't plan on doing a digital for the Kickstarter at all. So fair enough. I only want to do physical. I have a cool plan for what I want to do with the physical. It fits my vibe, my kind of my incidental retroness. I'm very See, I think that's just part of it. I think it just comes from my retro personality. What'd you say?
You could even just throwing ideas out there. You could even offer a commission to your, like, say someone wants to get a song commission while they're also buying for the album. You know what I mean? There's like a lot of different stuff you could do with that, really. To get
Yeah,
creative.
well, I have a lot of ideas in the
Nice.
works. That's not a bad idea, but that sounds like it could pile up into a lot of work quickly.
Could, but I mean, depending on if you want a lot of work, that's up to you, man. That's on your
Yeah, but
process there.
I do
Just
have
throwing it out
some
there for sure.
I do have some fun ideas in the works of what I want to do, but part of me just I need to get the album finished, and
Definitely, that's going to be the core of. I mean, you have an album, you can't do anything else with it, so you got to get down.
And I got to say, it's not far off, but
getting close, huh?
These days it's harder to work on this kind of stuff, especially because I have other people involved. There's more collaboration on this album. I have a lot of it's a cinematic experience, so there are actually there are scenes that are actors, speaking to one another. There are dialogue driven moments on the album that tell a story. It very much is a concept album. It tells a story. It's very cinematic, just without the visuals. So it's taken me longer to get it done. And now with, quarantine and social distancing and everything, it's harder to get people to work together on it. But I mean, I think I'm very close to finishing it, but the last steps are going to be difficult.
Man, well, I'm sure you can get over them. I know you got what it takes, so we're very excited to see once that does release.
Well, I hope people enjoy it, because it's been an undertaking thus far, and I'm excited about it. It's kind of the passion and excitement wanes, because after a while you're just working on the same thing for so long and kind of beating your head against the wall, like I said. But for the most part, this has been fun, so I hope that's reflected in the content.
Very nice, man. Any other ideas of any thoughts on if you might release any more singles between now and the release of Chuck?
It's likely. I probably won't release any well, I have released one single from Chuck actually on my YouTube channel, and that's just the overture, and that's just to kind of pique people's interests. But recently I went camping and I took my acoustic guitar, and the action on it's way too high, makes it difficult to play. And so I had my BB gun out there with me. I had the CO2 BB guns.
Huh?
So I took the CO2 cartridge because I didn't have a slide with me, and I started playing slide guitar on my acoustic with this CO2 canister because it's what I had. And anyway, I ended up having a lot of fun doing that. And so now that I got back home, I've been messing around more with the slide stuff. Just recently purchased a looper pedal, and I laid down a little bit of a rock riff, and then I'm just playing some slide guitar lead over it. And it's hard to explain. I'm playing guitar more passionately than I've ever played before.
Wow.
Like, I'm feeling it. It's really intense, and it's a lot of fun. And so what I want to do is release some slide guitar rock and roll tracks.
That sounds really cool, actually. Yeah.
Because I've just been having so much fun with it. I think that it would show, it would come from a real place,
A passion.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think in the meantime, if I do release anything, that's likely what it would be, is some slide guitar tracks, because that's the only thing I'm really thinking about besides Chuck.
Yeah, no, I get that, man. Yeah, that actually sounds like it'd be cool to tide people over until Chuck gets released.
Yeah, and it's just a joy to do. So no worries there. It's not work.
Exactly, man. When you enjoy what you're doing, it can't ever be work, right? Now, I wanted to bring the Bandcamp back up because I actually wanted to see if you could help us walk through and maybe explain how Bandcamp works. Which, oh, by the way, actually, NeoStars in the chat says he'd be happy to back your album if you put it out on a crowdfund.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. When we are there, we'll get you the word. Thank you.
That's great, man. Thank you, man. And so I wanted to share this up again on the screen here real quick. Check this out. Because I just had a few questions about essentially how Bandcamp works. So,
I hope I can answer them because I'm fresh to it. So I hope I can answer them.
So we go here. Let's check out Stroke of Midnight here, the single. It takes you to the page here. So if we can, obviously we see here we can send as a gift. We can also buy the digital track.
Yep.
It's $1.15 US. I think probably that means you could buy it in other currencies. So how does this work? What are we looking at here, and what does it give us?
Well, essentially, you can just go here and you can buy direct. You can buy the album or the tracks direct, and it also gives you the option to like pay more. He says 115 or more. So if you want to like throw a tip in there, it gives you the option, which is really great. So yeah, it's kind of the most direct way to buy my music from me. With the DistroKid, it's really this dance around way, and it's just such. It's small potatoes for a person who's not selling, who's somebody for somebody whose tracks aren't being listened to thousands of times a day. If I was getting 1,000 plays, every day, that would add up to something. But it's just so minute that it's just like fractions of pennies over time. Whereas, I mean, if you want to go buy the track, I make 80% of the profits off of this website.
Oh, okay, very nice.
So a way better chunk, and it's direct. I get an email notification. It's like, oh, hey, so and so bought your music, right. And I can tell him thank you, and just show my appreciation. And yeah, I saw some other artists doing that I follow, and I was like, well, this seems like the way to do it. It's direct, and it's the best way for you to turn a profit.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And like I said, I'd like to include a message part and the fact that you can download high quality MP3, FLAC, and other file types. That's nice.
Yeah, and so far, I mean, I haven't had major traction on it, but I have sold some tracks on it, and I much prefer it because it's just so direct. There's no messing around. And when I do upload new singles, they will be, uploaded to the Bandcamp page.
Very nice, man. Have you ever thought about putting them out on iTunes or Amazon Music or anything like that, or is it a similar situation to DistroKid?
Well, the DistroKid distributes it to those websites for me.
I see. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, DistroKid
music on. So if I were to go into like one of those sites, I could pick up your things through DistroKid.
Yeah, you can get them on Amazon. Well, cool, the DistroKid is just my distributor.
I see. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so they're an online distributor. You pay them like a bulk payment, and then they distribute all your music to all these different websites.
That's pretty awesome.
So you don't have to go to them individually. Yeah, and it works. It's good, and it gets it out there. And I've probably gotten a good amount of plays from all the sites and stuff where my music is available. It's just monetarily, it's just terrible for the artist. Unless you're like a huge, big time YouTuber, or something, you could probably do really well. But yeah, a buck a track, and I make 80% of the profits. I think that works for everybody.
Yeah, this is the best option, and the best way to support you as an indie musician. Yeah,
and it's not unreasonable. I mean, $8 for.
Oh no, that's their standard prices for any kind of music, really. I mean,
yeah, about $1 a track.
Yeah, that's typical iTunes, Amazon prices these days. So, yeah,
and I always, whenever I have a very partitioned brain when it comes to money I make from Laguna Munta. It always goes right back into Laguna Munta. Like I did the commission for you guys. Boom! I bought myself a looper pedal. I bought myself some lights. I bought myself some lights for my green screen, so I could start doing some green screen stuff. I always cycle it right back into Laguna Munta. So
you riding with Chuck, dude? I want you riding on that Cadillac, yo.
Yeah, I would love to put up some sweet Chuck visuals. I think ultimately I would have to do at least a music video featuring Chuck driving that Cadillac through space.
Have you done a music video yet, or have you not done anything like that yet?
Oh yeah, I have several music videos, but they're all no budget music videos. They're all music videos
music video.
Yeah, well on my YouTube page I have several. One of them was actually filmed. Yeah. Have you guys heard of Meow Wolf?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, we filmed a music video there.
Oh, that's fun, dude. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's I'm sorry.
I would love to check that video out. That sounds fun, man.
Yeah, here I'll pull the link and I'll drop it in there for you to check out. But that was a lot of fun. Yeah, Chuck went to Meow Wolf and.
Man, that is great.
He was a big hit. People thought he was part of the exhibit.
Oh man, how awesome is that, Dean? Well, that sounds like a fun experience, man.
Oh yeah. Well, Chuck had a blast, so he was.
I bet. Chuck is famous.
Yeah, and he's I'm part of me is a little jealous of how famous he is. That's why I started sticking my mug everywhere.
You got to, right? He can't outshine you. He's not the band leader. You are.
He's so much cooler than I am. It just can't be helped at this point. I'm comfortable with him being cooler.
At some point, he will be Laguna Munta, and you will be Chuck.
Yeah, we'll swap.
Yeah.
But I put the little the link for that in the chat here, the private chat, if you want to check that out. But that was I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you for sending that over to me.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, so that was the song is about it's called Every Time I Blink, and well, I don't really I don't want to tell you what the song's about, but the lyrics basically describe this guy who wakes up and just things don't seem quite right. Like his world's just a little bit skewed. Like he feels a little out of place, like he woke up somewhere he doesn't belong. And so Meow Wolf, being this kind of really tripped out visual experience that it is, was the perfect place to film the video.
Cool, yeah.
So my sister and my nephew actually did the filming, and
nice.
Just running around in Meow Wolf and trying to get these shots, and then trying to cut it into something that was cohesive and fun. And I really love the video. I think it's great, and I wish more people have seen it. I wish more people would see it because it's fun. I don't know. I think the problem these days is that there are so many good independent artists, and there are so many awesome looking music videos that were made for these bands that are small time, that when I make a video that's not to those standards, people just look at it like, oh, well, what is this crap? And they just kind of immediately tune out, because I've seen some videos that are really clean looking, for these indie bands. And this is not like it's filmed on like a flip phone or anything, but it doesn't look as good as those.
Okay, yeah. That's tough because I'm sure music videos cost, those kind of big budget music videos aren't easy to make or produce cheap.
Oh, definitely not. And we've always kind of been, I started making movies and videos 8th grade summer. My aunt gave me her like Sony Handycam little like 8mm cassette camera, and I've been making movies since my 8th grade summer. And so it's not a matter of like raising money or anything. We don't do that. We don't like put a budget into it. We just like get our friends together and come with this idea, and we just go film the video, make it happen,
That's awesome.
Whereas a lot of these bands, they probably have like directors, and they really go hard.
Yeah. I like yours though. I like the way you guys do it. It's like it's got more of a spontaneous nature to it.
It's more organic, and a lot of people do love that organic feel for a lot of things.
And ultimately, and it goes back to me being, the control freak. It's I would never want to surrender my creative vision to somebody else. And a lot of times, I know a lot of bands just their vision, the vision of the video is in somebody else's control. For a lot of big bands and even smaller bands, like a director's hired, and it's like, boom, you're executing their vision. And you watch, one thing that always threw me for a loop was whenever I watched music videos and they didn't feel like they made sense to the song.
Interesting, yeah.
Like my whole life.
Yeah, like the music video has nothing to do with what the music is.
Yeah. It's like, okay, there's a mannequin. She's dancing with a mannequin. I'm not hearing anything in the song about this. And part of me never got that. So when I do a video, I try to make it match the context of the song and try to tell the story of the song, because that's what you're doing. You're giving them a visual version of the song. You're trying to, that's what I think anyway.
Now, would you want to tease everyone here with? Should we go ahead and show off the music video a little bit? Maybe just like a short little segment of it, or do you want us to go ahead and leave that off the stream for now?
Oh, it's up. If you want to show a little clip of it, that'd be cool. We don't have to, because that's I'm proud of the video, and Meow Wolf was cool because they got this disclaimer. Oh, videos and pictures taken inside here are subject to Meow Wolf copyright, blah blah blah. And I was like, well, how am I gonna do this? So I just emailed them. I'm like, hey, can I do this music video? There, we filmed it. We just want to put it up on my YouTube channel, and they're like, yeah, that's cool.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, so that's why in the
nice
beginning, in the beginning I put thanks to Meow Wolf because they were like, I didn't, I don't know if they really would have given me a hassle about it, but I definitely wanted to go through the proper channels and be cool about it.
Definitely,
so, and they were cool about it.
Hey, they were probably looking at it as like, hey, free publicity.
You would think,
wrong with that.
Yeah, and that place, oh, it's so cool. Are you not familiar with it at all? Oh man, definitely look it up online. It's an interactive art exhibit is the way I believe it's described.
I think it's in Texas, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it's here. It's in Santa Fe, which is like an hour and a half from Taos.
Oh, it's in New Mexico, really? Oh,
yeah. And they're building another one in Colorado, I believe, or they were. I don't know about now. But
that's just a bad area. Tornadoes and shit. Oh,
where?
Over in Colorado? Hell no.
Tornadoes?
Yeah. I know that personally.
I've never heard of a tornado in Colorado.
Yeah, when I think I was 18, I had just graduated, and I wanted to see some of my extended family, and they had moved from California to Colorado, so I decided to go out there. And the day I landed, I found out that there were 2 tornadoes that spawned in the same backyard of this old lady's house, and she just prayed to dear God they did not head her way. And thankfully, they both went in opposite directions of her house.
In Colorado?
That was
apparently
Colorado.
look it up. I was just looking up, but apparently it's rare, but they do have them.
Okay, because I knew it wasn't a common experience because, I've lived in Taos my whole life, and I think once ever I heard like the emergency broadcast thing comes on the radio and it's like tornado warning, and we're like, what?
What? Yeah, that's scary, man. I don't want to live anywhere with a tornado.
Well, we have California, which has fire tornadoes now. So
fire nado.
I don't know, man.
Hey, at least not a sharknado, dude. That's all. Once that's it, I'm like, I'm done.
For that one.
But I actually got the video up here, so let me go ahead and put that back up on the screen.
Cool.
I wanted to make sure that loaded up before I put it up. But so this looks fun, man. Let's give this a look. And we'll full screen. Because why not, right? Here we go.
Face I've known so long. From the day I've been drugged with things had all gone wrong. I fell out of place in a house filled like mine, wearing what looked like my clothes and a watch telling me for a millionth time. Things are strange in my home.
That should be good there. We don't want to give the whole thing away. But, dude, that's awesome. I love the visual style you guys are going for there. It's super trippy and, like, it definitely fits the theme, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it wasn't that hard to go there with the Meow Wolf looking like it is. And, of course, I just threw some weird color tricks on the video when I edited it just to make it, even more trippy. But, yeah, I'd like to do more stuff with Chuck because he's cool.
Yeah, I was going to say it's nice to see Chuck in the music video, too. That was really cool. That was a good touch, man. Yeah, hopefully we'll see him on the next video that you end up getting to do.
I'd ultimately I want to do some like old school style, like I don't know, like how they filmed the old Star Wars and Star Trek episodes with models flying in front of a black screen. And that's my vibe. That's how I would operate. I mean, I have friends who are, animators and stuff who could help me with the computer end of it. But ultimately I'd kind of try to do as much in camera and old school as possible.
Dude, that would be so sick, honestly.
That's what I'm all about.
I could see like the model thing being a really cool aesthetic to do on a music video. Like that could look really cool. Like you see like a little Chuck jump into a spaceship and he flies off, starts battling something or something.
I want to, if I did that kind of stuff, I'd want it to look like an old 70s or 80s video movie, because honestly, those look more real to me than these new flashy $50 million on the effects alone movies. It's just
we were talking about that someone the other day, you know?
Yeah, and honestly, it comes. I think a big thing that I enjoy about old movies and the old special effects is the fact that they had to be creative. They had to think on their feet. They're like, okay, gentlemen, we are filming this gigantic spaceship and it's going to destroy 3 planets and then it's got to fly through this gigantic nebula. And no, we've never done nothing like this has ever been done on film before. So why don't you guys figure out how to do that?
Wow.
and then they had to figure it out. They had to come up with tricks, cool, and they had to be creative and think about how they're going to do this. Nowadays, they're like, hey, just throw the boys in the tech department a few more $1 million and we'll just get this sorted out, you know? And granted, those guys are talented and they're super creative, but I just feel like now there's no, how are we going to do this? It's like, give the money to those guys.
It lacks a certain authenticity in a way.
Yeah,
and in a sense, a little bit of passion too, because a lot of the old traditional way of doing things, it required that real passion to do it. Because are you gonna really want to spend 3-4 hours on this one figure and keep moving it around?
I was
just gonna spend maybe an hour coming up with the pattern.
Well, yeah, think about
animation sequence.
I was just watching a video talking about that. The scene in 2001: A Space Odyssey when he flies into the singularity, and you see all those crazy trippy colors. I was just watching a video. The effects artist React guys. They were talking about it would have taken like 2 months to do that sequence with all the exposing of film that they would have to do for it.
Oh my god!
Just to do that one scene, and it looks fantastic. Whereas like nowadays they'd slap it into a computer, might take less time, but ultimately it doesn't look as convincing. So I'm all about that old school, tangible. It's the tangibility. People aren't as easily tricked as everybody thinks. You give them something real and they will latch onto it.
Yeah, no, you're really true. That's very true.
I think it was the same way with Willy Wonka. A lot of people consider that scene where Willy Wonka is taking him through that tunnel and he's acting a little crazy like, and a lot of people were talking about and how like just that whole sequence. One, that was one of the first scenes that they shot with Gene Wilder, and 2, just the time it took to create that whole thing. Like when it first came out, a lot of people were freaked out because of that one scene alone.
Oh,
and it was like, damn, I wonder if that would even work today, because you see it all the time, but it doesn't have that same visceral effect.
Yeah, and that's kind of. It's an interesting point. That's something I've been talking about recently is like the people who are the originators and kind of like the underground originators, people who did it first but really weren't maybe recognized for whatever it may be, music, visuals, whatever. They're always kind of like, let me try to explain this better. It's like I just watched Halloween again for the first time in a long time. The classic John Carpenter Halloween, the original.
Oh, yeah.
And I watched it again and I'm like, I don't really dig this. This feels kind of cookie cutter. And you know why? It's because everything after it copied it. And so I've seen that movie a million times in repetition. And now the original looks fake. And I think that happens often where it's like the original people who are actually creative and like push something new, they change it and they make, they change the game and now everybody copies them so that when the original is viewed again, it looks like a fraud.
Yeah, that's
it ends up where it used to be an A-class movie for horror. Now it's probably B, C level because of all the other crap that's come out, and it's like, oh, this is just starting to blend.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way it is these days with just the CGI madness.
And see, I think that's why John Carpenter's The Thing actually still to this day works really well compared to everything else that's come after it.
Oh my God,
because just the way the cinematic and the visual effects and even just the way John Carpenter himself includes himself in almost everything. It blends all together to the point where you can't put it with anything else. It works so well by itself that nothing can compare to it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm all about. Those practical, believable effects. I mean, that guy with the spider legs coming out of his head.
Mhm.
I mean, that's burned into my memory. I will never forget that. It's terrified me as a child.
Or even the arms, just the guy losing his arms through like his stomach splitting open and then just crushing down. You're just like, oh, geez.
Yeah, whereas like a movie you may have watched last week, you probably already forgot.
True. Yeah, man. Well, that's pretty funny. Well, we are getting to close to the end of our time here. But I did want to ask you if there's anything that you wanted to tease everybody out there, and any kind of upcoming stuff that you want to talk about, maybe.
Well, the big tease is that there will be a Kickstarter for the Chuck album once it's done, and I haven't told anybody about this. I actually did commission Pablo Romero for another piece of art that won't be revealed until that campaign, and it will be exclusively available through that campaign.
Ooh, very cool. I'm excited to see more about that. That sounds awesome, man.
And you think this artwork's cool? The next one, I feel like the other one, the second, blows it out of the water personally.
Really? Wow.
I think so. Other than that, I will continue to, I'm trying to put out videos every week on my YouTube channel, and that's been a task. And I've got a new series on my YouTube channel now called Laguna's Musings, where I just, instead of just trying to pound out, me playing guitar videos or something, I don't know. I just feel like after a certain point, your content just becomes so manufactured. You're not doing anything real. And I don't want to become that. So I've started this series called Laguna's Musings, where I think, if something pops into my head that I feel I want to discuss or talk about that actually has some meaning to me, I'm just doing these episodes. They're averaging about 15 minutes each, where I bring up a topic. The first one is about albums that influenced you, like early influential albums that have affected you. And I pose questions throughout the talk, and I answer the questions, and I leave them up for the audience to answer. And I'm trying to get some kind of conversational pieces going on. I want to interact more with the audience. I want to get some good recommendations for music or whatever the topic of the episode is. So that's something new that I'm doing. I've got one episode that's already up, and I've got another episode coming.
Excellent.
And that's something I really enjoy. It feels very legitimate to me. I'm talking about things that really are important to me, and it's nice. It just feels right to me, and I hope that people can kind of get into it and join in on the conversation.
Nice, man. Yeah, I'll definitely check out an episode of that coming up. Do you have when you're going to do your next one?
Yeah, I think it's next. Well, I got to check here real quick, but it's very soon actually. The first one went up. When was that? Maybe a few weeks ago. Let me see here. Let me check my stuff here. 1 second. Yeah, so the next one is going to air. It's going to come out on the 17th. So that would be Thursday.
Very nice. And go ahead.
Yeah, that episode is dedicated to music and memory. Like when you listen to a song, it takes you back somewhere, something profound. That's what I'm talking about there. Because there's an experience in my life that whenever I hear this certain album, it takes me right back to that experience, and it was a big moment in my life. So I wanted to talk about that and kind of get other people's, I want to hear about other people's experiences.
No, that's really cool, man. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people have that one album or those few, that like you said, we had those defining moments almost.
Yeah, that's the idea, is just to get a conversation going and hear. I talk to myself enough. I'd like to hear from some other people.
Now, you also have some T-shirts available as well at your Teespring, I think.
I do. Yeah, I've had the Teespring site up for some time, and there's several different designs that I've thrown up there. I try to come up with some cool stuff, and the Chuck album artwork T-shirt is available. There's
really?
There's some cool leggings on there if you're into that sort of thing. I just I put me on a T-shirt because, like I said, Chuck is on everything. So I'm like, I'm putting me on a damn T-shirt.
You got to, man, and you're the face of the band, so you got to be on the T-shirt.
Gotta. So that satisfied my ego, putting myself on a T-shirt. But yeah, there's a multitude of designs. I try to keep it tried to put a fair amount of different things on there, but yeah, a great way if you want to go grab a t-shirt. That's great. That supports me. That helps out with keeping the Laguna engine running. But yeah, eventually there'll be some new designs, but right now it's just still a good handful on there.
I like to get the different colors on it, so you can kind of choose which one you like to go with. You know, what color suits you.
Yeah, I try to make it a little interesting, do something different, and give people some cool options. But
and stuff, you know.
Of course, you know the classic, just the Laguna Munta black and white. That's like the classic image.
Very classic. That's the plug. You got the plug side even on there too.
Yep.
Yeah, very nice, man. Well, that's awesome. And if you guys are watching, please give his YouTube channel a watch or a subscribe, and please go check out his website on Bandcamp and on Teespring here.
Yep, and I'm on all the social media just under Laguna Munta.
Yeah, and let's put up that Bandcamp one just one more time on the screen here, just because that's going to be the best place to get the music. So if you're looking where you need to go, it is the Bandcamp, and that is at https://lagunamunta.bandcamp.com. And thanks again, man. This was really interesting. We've never talked with a musician on Indie Spotlight before. So this is actually really cool to hear what your inspirations and where you've come from and everything.
Well, it was a pleasure.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it was just a pleasure speaking with you guys.
Well, thank you, man. And if you want to come on again to one of our shows to promote your crowdfunding campaign once that goes live, you can definitely do that as well. And looks like he dropped out here, but we appreciate everyone again for joining us. And we'll see you on another episode. I think this was a good one, Matt. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, this was great. I mean, other than comics, this hits another passion of mine that I've always had since I was a kid, because hearing his story, like I said, it kind of hit close to home with a lot of stuff. So for me, it was a good chance of looking at a different perspective of creativity and like how creation became more of his passion rather than just the music itself. It was about the creating portion of it.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
I'm sorry, I accidentally dropped out. I'm back.
No worries, man. I figured something happened. But yeah, I think as I was saying, if you want to come back onto the show sometime to promote your crowdfunder, that would definitely be awesome, man.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. Once I'm there, I'll definitely let you guys know, and I would love that. Would definitely help get the ball rolling.
Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely want to get the word out there, and because I do feel like that's a great way to get some excitement behind it and get people involved in the process.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, very exciting, man. And so, just again, reiterate, where can people find you on the internet?
Well, I'm on Facebook at Laguna Munta, Twitter, Instagram, all under Laguna Munta. Got my YouTube channel, the Bandcamp, got the Teespring. I'm kind of all over the place. If you search Laguna Munta, you're bound to find me. Just type that into the old Google search, and you can't miss.
Nice, very nice, man. Well, we wish you luck with your new album. Again, that's very exciting, man. And we're looking forward to everything that you got coming out, man. So please check him out, everyone. Check out his website, his YouTube, and please support this awesome indie creator. He's putting out some awesome music, and I know he has a lot of passion for it. So we appreciate your time, guys, and we'll